Hey, you cool cats and kittens. Tiger King reference number one. It is Mrs. Donahue, and I am looking to introduce some American literature to you guys. First things first, my juniors. This has always been a big year for you guys, and I'm sure it's extra levels of stress that it's normally a big year between the research paper for junior English, the research paper for history, and the fact that it's just the weirdest schedule in the world. Take a breath. Be at ease. I have no intentions of making your life harder than it needs to be. One thing that we will talk about, not right now, but pretty soon, is when you feel like doing your research paper. Last year I had a baby, and because of that, my students all did their research paper really early in the year. There were benefits and drawbacks to that. More than half of them said that they preferred doing it a little earlier in the school year. And I will sort of lay that option out to you guys depending on how some of these early assignments go. If you want to get it over with early, there's a chance that we could do that. In general, for American Lit, I want to sort of pull back the curtain and show you, the man behind Oz, as it were. In American Lit, you're juniors, which means you've gone from World Lit as freshmen to Identity Literature as sophomores to looking specifically at your place sort of in your country. This is meant to be a year where a lot of big topics of conversation happen. The units are things like American family, American politics. There's a whole lot to discuss. Racial identity, socioeconomic status, gender. We do them all a little differently than you've done them in the past. They've always been really sort of interesting and engaging topics of conversation for our students, but also things that we typically handled in person. Notice I say we pretty much consistently. Why? Because Miss McKean, Miss Nappy, and I are almost always on the exact same page with what we're doing and how we're thinking and how we design lessons. Miss Nappy and I did a lot of redesigning to the juniors a couple years ago, and when I tell you that there were excited late night texts of oh my God, do you see this material? Wouldn't this be amazing when we introduce materialism? We really did that and continue to do it. I get random emails from her, and I'm not saying that she doesn't get them from me, because she totally does. In the sort of process of introducing American literature, I really want you guys to consider what it means to be American. What does it mean to be American? These conversations are going to look so much different, knowing that half the time you have them, you're going to be in a group of kids, and the other half you're going to be alone. I have no idea whether that's going to make the conversations better or worse, but I think it's still important to have them. Usually, what I say at this point of the year is this: I want you very badly to find your own opinions, to know how to support them, to really feel confident in what you say, so that you're not merely sort of parroting other things you've heard around, or just looking at one sentence reviews of articles that were linked by someone else on Instagram. I want you to feel like you really understand the answer to the question, what does it mean to be American? Spoiler alert, it's pretty much going to be asked at every available opportunity. Get used to it. It's going to come up on seminars, it's going to come up on essays, it's going to come up on do nows. What does it mean to be American? What does it mean? Do you feel good about this? Do you not? Are you happy? Are you not satisfied at all? Any time that we do this during an election, there's an extra layer to that conversation, because some of you are potentially either just below voting age, some of you might be voting age, most of you are going to be a little below it, and I don't know how angry or upset that makes you. It's going to be interesting given the state of the pandemic as well. Just is. Usually what I say to students is to have these really good, meaningful, important conversations, something has to be said first. One, be understanding when you hear other people talk, and also try to be understanding of what comes out of your mouth. Now, what this means is if you're working through an opinion and you're trying to say something and you don't know if you're saying it quite right, just say that. Just say, listen, I'm working on this. I'm going to say it. Help me. Help me phrase it better. As opposed to just shooting something out of your mouth and hoping that it doesn't offend anybody. The other thing is we have to try to hear first, then take a pause before our reaction. Because oftentimes, you guys are all fairly young. No one's trying to go out of their way and hurt someone else's feelings. And our instinct to just become instantly reactive, like, oh my God, he said that, can sometimes counteract the productivity of the room. Like, it can sometimes stop us from having the conversation. Now, that doesn't mean if you are having a hard time with what someone's saying, if you are reacting, to kind of suffer in silence. There's always a time to say, hey, Misty, I need a moment. Hey, can we talk? Hey, this is how I heard that. We've had some really good, really meaningful conversations where students were like, listen, when you said that, this is the place I went to in my head, and I need to express to you where I went, because I don't know that you knew that you put me there. And maybe it's a different lesson than I intended to have with the class, but we've pretty much always had really good conversations. Good, meaningful. People learn from them. They grow from them. The other thing that I wanted to say is no one's opinion is meant to sort of sacrifice itself to make someone else happy. In this classroom, you are not required to agree with me at all. I always tell students every year, there have been kids who have gotten an A in my class, and I have disagreed with every word they've said. And there have been kids that I have loved to death. Love this kid. Agreed. And they have failed. Sometimes more than once. That's a story for another day. But your performance in the class has nothing to do with your personal opinions and mine lining up. My job as your teacher is not to train you to mimic my opinions. My job as your teacher is to show you different materials, to let you sort of test out your opinions, to learn how to support your opinions. That's my job. That's why usually research paper's a fun year, because I get to show you guys how to support yourselves in sort of a really deep and meaningful way. Like literally deep, you write pages and pages. In order to consider where you really stand and help you develop these opinions, we kind of have to start with a really basic conversation about America. Normally, what we would do is we would spend a couple of weeks of class doing something called the 5 senses of being American, or the 5 senses of America. We would listen, and we would touch, and we would look, and we would smell and taste, and it's a fun couple of weeks, filled with, as you might imagine, food and music and pictures. Now, we can do a modified version of that in remote learning. I am going to heartily encourage, when possible, that you guys try the food suggested by your classmates. Listen to the music brought forth. Some of it's required from me, and some of it will be optional, given by others. Try to broaden your horizons. In many ways, remote learning is doing something for you that would not have been done for you until you got to college. This is kind of amazing. I was a college professor briefly. Then I had a baby, and these things take up so much time. But one thing that's really liberating about being in college, both as a student and a professor, is that the material is provided to you. You are given the time to do it. the expectation is that you do it. The professor's available to you for help and questions, but there's not the hand-holding that frequently kind of happens in high school classrooms. You guys don't like hearing that your hand gets held, but there's a lot more hand-holding and a lot more one-on-one, like tapping on your shoulder, moving desks around, making sure that you're being productive. As opposed to in college, where if you want to write a check for $20,000 and then not be productive at all, that is your choice. Life's full of them, some more expensive than others. Remote learning is going to kind of look like that. I am going to give you all these materials. I'm going to give you direction. I'm going to give you time to submit it. Those of you who do the work the way that it is instructed to do it, those of you who take the time to do it, like the way it's supposed to be done as opposed to rushing through it at 4 a.m. because you forgot about it. If you do it, you're going to get more out of the class than the kids who bum rush through it. They'll get more than the kids who blow it off. And the kids who forgot about it for a week, didn't realize it was graded, and then do it late will get a little bit more out of it than the kids who did nothing at all. I, again, want to stress to you that the level of effort you put into it does nothing for my personal opinion of you. I like and support each one of you. I want to help you, whether or not I agree with you and whether or not I think that you're working as hard as you could. Those things are all separate from my central kind of drive, which is to help you understand the material the best way that I can, to help you analyze it and become better thinkers. I think my primary aim as a high school teacher in sort of 11th grade, that you guys are almost done. You need to learn how to analytically think and develop the ability to start doing it on your own without someone prompting you. It's my job to get you to that independent stage where you're still getting prompts and I'm still showing you sort of the map. You're not ready to write your own maps yet, but that's my goal. That being said, stay tuned for the direction on how we're doing the 5 senses of being American. The reason that we do it that way is because the word America is such a Rorschach test. Don't worry, I'll put an example of those up too. Meaning, when I say it, I am getting however many different responses as students I have in the room. So if there's 25 of you, when I say the word America, there's 25 different complete reactions. And some of you will share them and some of you won't. You'll just think the answer. And you take for granted that other people understood the word the same way you did. You take for granted that when I talk about like classic Americana music, that you're thinking of the same music that I am. And we might not be. So the important thing is to try and show in this wide variety of things that are American what we mean when we say it. Because until we kind of get that to a semi-reasonable place, I say semi because we're going to be working on that reaction to the word America all year. Until we get that reaction to a semi-workable place where I say it and you kind of go, okay, it could mean A, B, C, or D, we can't move on to the next stuff, which is sort of timeline building. There are themes in this particular school year. The American Lit year always comes equipped with a few themes, and we teach them because they work really well for what we're doing. So I am hopeful that you guys are going to enjoy these building block assignments, because we do have to do a little bit of prep work to make the rest of the year a little more smooth sailing. So buckle up, make sure you get some earbuds. I've said it once before, but please try and get some earbuds because there will be different kinds of media available to you. And other than that, get the comfy chair out, get the coffee. It's time.